For generations, whispers of extraterrestrial life have echoed throughout history, but no longer is it reserved for tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorists, speculative science fiction, or figments of our imagination. The disturbing increase in UFO sightings in the past few years is now becoming impossible to ignore, and more importantly, impossible to cover up. Just recently, a sighting of an alien probe has been spreading like wildfire on social media. This video was recorded in the cockpit of a 747 jet by an airline pilot. A mysterious blue sphere hovered silently and almost landed at Manchester Airport. The airport shut down all flights as stunned passengers and staff looked on. As it sat still hovering directly over the ground, security approached it, and then it suddenly took off and was soon out of sight. And while the airline pilot and other witnesses were brave enough to come forward and post this footage online, their accounts were quickly shut down and censored due to mounting government pressure. But it was not before thousands of people downloaded the content and shared it online. This is not the first time these alien probes have been seen in Manchester, England. This sighting took place in 2008, and you can see it in much clearer detail. And here is some other footage of one narrowly missing the jet loaded with passengers. While the media tries to bury these stories and get them taken down off social media, the powers that be, the institutions, the elite, they all know they are real. In fact, you can see sculptures of these alien probes in front of places like Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland, Washington, D.C., the World Health Organization, and even the Vatican. They love to hide the truth in plain sight, as you can see, especially the Vatican. They seem to have a deep interest in extraterrestrials. The Vatican Observatory's chief astronomer has said that the possibility of extraterrestrial life does not contradict faith in God. Yes, you heard that correctly. Not only are they openly admitting aliens could be real, but also that they have a chief astronomer. That's because they own and operate one of the largest, most expensive telescopes in the world, costing over $100 million to build. Now, why would the Vatican need a $100 million telescope? The official reason? To keep track of the astronomical basis of the calendar by which holy days like Easter and Christmas Day are determined. Yeah, right. Even stranger are the paintings found hanging in the Vatican. Now sure, you could easily just write this off as a coincidence. But what about these? Painted centuries ago, what do you think they were depicting here? Or this painting here, showing the Mother Mary looking down at two small children, with what appears to be a UFO in the background and a man with his dog looking up at it. Are these subtle clues that they know something else is out there? With paintings like this, it gets harder and harder to dismiss this as a mere coincidence. So why does the Vatican and world governments still deny that extraterrestrial life could exist? What are they really hiding? Well, make sure you pay close attention to what I'm about to share with you, because the real truth will shock you to your core. You see, they want you to believe that UFOs and extraterrestrials don't exist, because they don't want you to discover the truth about what they left behind here on planet Earth. Thousands of years ago, a race of intelligent beings visited Earth, and they left something behind as a gift to humanity. It was a type of shimmering gold elixir that they consumed, and they taught mankind how to make it as well. This mystical golden concoction instantly activated the chakra system, the pineal gland, and opened the third eye. Your connection to the universe would be magnified by 100-fold as new areas of your brain never accessed before became activated. Just imagine our wars, our daily struggles to make enough money to feed our family, our endless health problems could all go away if we still had access to this magical elixir. You could be living a blessed existence, one that you could only dream of, where you'd be truly able to use the power of the universe to help heal yourself, attract blessings of all types like wealth, fulfillment, and even your soulmate. just like the pharaohs did in ancient Egypt, before this mystical elixir disappeared from existence. This is the reason these civilizations were able to advance to the level they're at now. It's all related to being able to connect to the universe and unlocking the full potential of your mind. But somewhere along the lines, this information was hidden and hoarded by the ancient pharaohs, secret societies, our government, and even the Vatican. Now, I know this may sound crazy to you, and you may still feel unsure if aliens even exist at all. But I promise, if you give me a few minutes to show you the proof, your life will change in ways you could never imagine. So let's get into it, shall we? 42% of all Americans now believe in the existence of UFOs, more than double what it used to be a mere 20 years ago. With hundreds of thousands of officially reported sightings from all around the world and growing, the government narrative that we're alone in the universe is crumbling fast. When you have well-documented incidents like what occurred in Roswell, New Mexico, all it does is show that they're hiding something. And while UFOs have been visiting Earth for hundreds of thousands of years, the Roswell incident is really what caught the U.S. government's attention and caused them to start studying it. This is what really happened. Back in 1947, after a local rancher discovered what appeared to be a crashed UFO in a field near his home, he handed over the wreckage to the United States Air Force. At first, the Roswell Army Airfield issued a press release stating that they'd captured a UFO. But then 24 hours later, after making headlines around the world, they quickly changed their story and claimed it was just a weather balloon. 30 years later, one of the intelligence officers who was threatened to stay quiet decided to come clean. After becoming terminally ill, he spoke out. I knew that I had never seen anything like that before, and as of now, I don't know what it was. It was not anything of this earth. That I'm quite sure of, he said before describing the materials. You couldn't even bend it. You couldn't dent it. Even a sledgehammer would bounce off of it. Do you think someone who was on their deathbed would lie about what he experienced? And do you think trained military personnel wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a weather balloon and this material he is describing? After this occurred, the U.S. government formed something called Project Blue Book, which was set up to officially start studying the UFO phenomenon and hiding their findings from the public. And since then, there have been many other UFO sightings. And if you're still feeling a bit skeptical, there was another famous incident that occurred in 1997 in Phoenix, Arizona that baffles people to this day. Large, silent, V-shaped crafts were seen by over 20,000 residents, hovering above the city, illuminated by several lights on them. Thousands of residents called 911 to report the sighting. It was even witnessed by the governor of Arizona. And the military's explanation for this? Flares released from a military jet. The thing is, though, these lights were in formation, hovering with no smoke trail. To add insult to injury, the governor denied having witnessed it publicly, officially because he didn't want to scare people about what he saw. Unofficially, because he was told not to admit it. But still, you might think that if this were the case, then why hasn't anyone from the government come forward, aside from the very rare recent admission from the Pentagon? Well, they actually have. Edgar Mitchell, a NASA astronaut and sixth man to walk on the moon, said, "Yes, there has been ET visitation, and may continue to be. There's a lot of evidence that points to a clandestine group. But if that isn't enough, what about the former presidents of the United States?" Here's what former President Barack Obama had to say about this topic.
When it comes to aliens, there's some things I just can't tell you on air. But what is true, and I'm actually being serious here, is that there's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are.
But he's not the only former president to make an admission. And regardless of your political learnings, we have presidents on both sides of the aisle saying the same thing. Here's what former President Donald Trump had to say when pressed about the topic by his own son.
Before you leave office, will you let us know if there's aliens? Because this is the only thing I really want to know.
I won't talk to you about what I know about it, but it's very interesting.
Now, there are not too many things those two former presidents agree on, but this is one issue where they see completely eye to eye. You may be wondering if we've actually recovered alien bodies. That answer is also yes. You see, recently during a congressional hearing, former combat and Pentagon information officer David Grush declared under oath that we have recovered alien craft and non-human biologics.
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
So, with all of this out there, government still won't come clean and admit the truth to us. It's not that we can't handle the truth. It's not that it could destroy religion, because almost all major religions account for the possibility of aliens, or even reference them in their scriptures. And it's not that it would cause global anarchy and the collapse of government. No, it's none of these things. The world elites, the secret societies, and the world governments don't want us to learn the truth and discover the gift that was meant for humankind. They don't want to release us from the matrix of control they've built around us. Just imagine what your life would be like if they wouldn't have blocked you from having access to this otherworldly golden elixir, the same elixir that allowed these ancient beings to evolve into the spacefaring race they are now. You would be able to directly connect to the universe and finally be able to manifest your innermost desires directly into reality. And just think about being able to free yourself from the constant health problems and the everyday rat race of just trying to survive, and instead being able to focus on enjoying the blessings the universe has to offer you, living in peace, happiness, and pure contentment. Well, prepare to have your mind blown, because the days of hiding this from the public are over. We have been contacted by a whistleblower who has come forward on the condition that we protect their identity for their safety, and for the first time ever, is releasing this information to the public. This incredible testimony will shock you to your core, and the long-hidden elixir will finally be revealed once and for all. I must warn you, putting this information out is not only putting him in danger, it's putting us in danger for revealing it to the public. So I urge you to set aside what you're doing right now and pay close attention to what we're about to share with you, because this video may not be up for very long. What I'm about to share with you is not to be taken lightly. It's real. It's happening. And has been happening for thousands of years. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The implications of what I'm about to share with you will change your entire perspective on reality, history, and the future. I need to get this information out there while there is still time. And to make things simple, you can just call me Mr. X. Now, who I am is more complicated. You could call me a whistleblower, a covert government contractor, or heck, even just a plain old armchair researcher who has connections in high places. But most of what I've learned is because of my father. He was a young, up-and-coming intelligent officer in the 1960s. He had ties with several NASA programs and eventually got recruited by the military to, let's just say, clandestine operations. And because of this, he knew some of the NASA astronauts, including the famous Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon. This set the stage for me having a very interesting upbringing. My story begins back in 1969 when Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins first set foot on the moon during the Apollo 11 mission. And for the record, yes, we did go to the moon. The CIA is the group responsible for starting all the conspiracy theories about the moon landing being faked. And in a few seconds, you'll understand why they did that. This was one of the most televised live events in history, with nearly 600 million people tuning in worldwide to watch this landmark achievement. But beneath the surface, the tension was mounting with the astronauts. They had observed something following them on the way to the moon. There have been reported sightings of UFOs from previous astronauts, and they used code words like bogey, Santa Claus, and fire when talking about them. And now, they were experiencing something too, but nothing could prepare them for what came next. Once the moon module successfully landed, Neil Armstrong made history as the first man to set foot on the moon. But the excitement soon turned to dread as he noticed that he wasn't alone. There was a huge alien craft on a crater nearby observing them. He switched his communications to the private medical channel so the rest of the world couldn't hear what he was saying.
No one's going to believe this. Whistle. I say that there were other spaceships. They're lined up on the other side of the crater. There they are, and they're watching us.
The resulting missing live audio and video feed to the world was explained away by NASA as a camera that had overheated. During all of this chaos, the third astronaut, Michael Collins, was experiencing his own emergency. As he orbited the dark side of the moon in the command module, he was stunned to see several structures on the moon. What appeared to be cooling towers, satellite dishes, factories, and even a base. My father also saw some of the photos NASA took before they scrubbed them for the public, like this one here, that he was able to save. As for Michael Collins, as if he didn't have enough to deal with already, he was also reportedly hearing strange sounds coming from the surface of the moon. He had to endure this for several orbits until Neil and Buzz were able to finish the rest of the mission under the intense anxiety of being watched by massive alien crafts. But they still had one last thing to do before they left the moon. They left behind a small white bag that contained a golden olive branch as a symbol of peace. It also contained a small silicon disc that contained messages of goodwill from 73 world leaders and NASA. Now ask yourself, if the official narrative NASA wants us to believe is that there is no alien life, why bother leaving these behind? After that, Buzz and Neil reunited with Michael in the command module while being observed by the alien presence, and set course back to Earth with all three being visibly shaken. Meanwhile, back on Earth, I was only a small child during the moon landing, but it's something I'll never forget. At the time, I had an idea that my father was involved with NASA, but didn't understand the full extent of what he did. The day after the moon landing was televised, sometime fairly early in the morning, I remember being awoken by my father coming back home. He called my mother into the bedroom, and in a hushed voice, I heard him say, "We found something. There's something on the moon, and it's not ours." There were aliens watching them on the moon. They had massive spaceships. When I heard this, I became overcome with fright and started to cry. My parents came to my bedroom and assured me that everything was okay, and that there was nothing on the moon, and that I heard him wrong. But I knew what I heard, and I knew by the look on my father's face when he came home that something had happened. And it wasn't until I was much older that my father came clean with the truth. And this is what spawned an interest in UFOs for me, starting at a young age, and eventually led me down the same path as my father. Now, the next few weeks were a whirlwind. The NASA astronauts were in quarantine out of fear that they could have brought back some kind of space bacteria or virus. During this time, They were also warned not to speak of what they saw on the moon to the public or to anyone for the rest of their lives. When they finally gave the first press conference, you could tell that they were very uncomfortable. Not the type of energy or mood you'd think you'd be in after making world history and setting foot on the moon.
Of past press conferences and talk about the things that interested us most, in particular the things that occurred on and about the moon. We will use a number of films and slides which most of you have already seen.
But the truth was, they had PTSD from what they just went through. The journey alone was extremely stressful and dangerous, but coupled with the revelation of alien life and not knowing if they'd destroy them at any second would be too much for almost anyone to handle. After the press died down a bit from the moon landing, Neil vowed to never reach for the stars again and became pretty reclusive, very rarely giving interviews. According to my father, Neil pressed NASA to give him more information about the beings he encountered on the moon, but was completely stonewalled, as were the rest of the astronauts. Neil felt betrayed. NASA not only had an entire speech prepared, fully expecting the astronauts to die up there, but they also used them as guinea pigs. They discovered that there were aliens on the moon and wanted to see how they'd react when the astronauts landed, to see if they were hostile or not. So Neil began searching for answers on his own. If NASA and the government wasn't going to tell him, he was going to find out on his own. So he shut himself off from the world and began researching everything he could about UFOs. You see, there were rumors amongst the astronauts, even though they were not in the deepest circles of the elites and didn't have privileged access to all the information related to UFOs and aliens. They were all very smart and well-connected individuals. Neil had a friend who was a professor of ancient history who told Neil about a bunch of curious things he came across when researching the ancient Sumerians, so Neil began researching them for himself. The ancient Sumerians were the first civilization here on Earth and existed over 6,000 years ago in the area we call Mesopotamia. They invented writing, mathematics, the wheel, advanced farming techniques, and also had an extremely advanced knowledge of the universe. But most importantly, in many of their ancient tablets that were recovered, they talk about an ancient race of aliens called the Anunnaki that came to Earth and ruled over them. These beings were 10 to 15 feet tall, resembled how we look, or should I say, we resemble how they looked. They had lifespans of thousands of years, were extremely intelligent, and capable of intergalactic travel. And if you still think this sounds a bit far-fetched, I understand, but truth is stranger than fiction. Listen to what Al Worden, the sixth man to walk on the moon, had to say about this.
And do you think there's extraterrestrials out there, Al, as well?
What?
Do you think there's aliens?
You know, I've been asked that question hundreds of times. Do you believe in aliens? And I say, yeah. Station here. That's what I believe. And if you don't believe me, go get books on the ancient Sumerians and see what they had to say.
That's a whole different discussion now.
They'll tell you right up front.
You've just blown that right open.
Yeah.
And according to Sumerian lore, the Mahabharata, the Indian Vedas, and other ancient history from around the world, these beings originated from the Pleiadian star system. But a great war broke out as described in the holy texts, a war like never witnessed here on Earth. With giant spaceships that resemble the Death Star from Star Wars, capable of destroying entire planets and other advanced weaponry, millions of beings were destroyed, entire planets wiped out. Several races of aliens were forced to flee the war, barely escaping with their lives, including the Anunnaki. These beings eventually settled on a planet called Nibiru, or as NASA calls it, Planet X, which happens to be fairly close to our solar system. And even though NASA says there is some evidence for it, they still won't admit that it is there. Meanwhile, the elites know, world government leaders know, and they drop clues once in a while. Like the Swiss banknote from 1979, that not only shows Nibiru's orbit around the sun, but also depicts a stargate going through our solar system. Crazy, right? Now, the Anunnaki prospered for thousands upon thousands of years on their newfound home planet, but eventually disaster struck. According to Sumerian tablets, there was a series of ecological disasters that happened on their planet, damaging their atmosphere. Multiple volcanic eruptions that occurred simultaneously are said to have caused it. So their greatest minds got together to figure out a solution to save their world, and they realized that by injecting gold particles all throughout their atmosphere, they would be able to reflect the radiation and repair it. There was only one problem. Gold was extremely rare on their planet. So they sent out scouts and eventually came upon Earth hundreds of thousands of years in the past. The ruler of Planet X was named Anu, and he sent his two sons, Enki and Enlil, along with thousands of others in order to mine the gold from our planet and take it back home. Back then, it was primitive man that roamed the planet. The Anunnaki decided that even with their advanced technology, it would be a very difficult undertaking to mine all of the gold they needed for their home planet themselves. So they devised a plan. The brother Enki had an idea to modify the DNA of primitive man and splice it with their own DNA in order to create subservient slaves to mine the gold for them. Science also backs this up, as we have a missing link in our evolution that no one can explain. A quantum leap forward in evolution that happened extremely rapidly. We were around for hundreds of thousands of years without much evolution, and then, in the past several thousand years, we went from using sticks and stones to creating computers, nuclear weapons, and traveling to Mars. The Anunnaki increased our intelligence, our consciousness, increased our lifespan, and gave us traits that mimic them directly. But Enki also did something else. He modified our pineal gland and added special DNA that, once activated, would open the pineal gland fully. And while the brother Enki also came to adore the humans, his brother Enlil did not, and was furious when he found out that Enki modified their pineal gland so that they could be more like the Anunnaki. In fact, he wanted to destroy them before they went back to their home planet, but Enki protected the humans and prevented him from wiping us out. Eventually, they left Earth for reasons I'll explain in a few minutes, but their impact on us is undeniable. Just consider our fascination with gold. Thousands of years ago, gold had no use. It was soft, heavy, and couldn't be used to fasten weapons out of, and electricity hadn't been discovered, so why would people revere gold from all around the world? Every ancient pharaoh from Egypt was buried with gold. Every king, regardless of what continent they were on, hoarded and worshipped gold. The real reason is because of the Anunnaki and how they revered it. They naturally tried to fashion themselves after what they perceived to be gods. And if you're still not sure this ancient alien race existed, consider this. You even have mention of them in the Bible as the sons of Anak in Genesis and the book of Numbers, as well as being mentioned by other holy books as well. You have Sumerian tablets that are thousands of years old, yet it shows all of our planets, the correct relative sizes of the planets and orbits around the sun. This knowledge would be impossible to have at the time without being given to them by an alien race. Telescopes were not even invented. You also have the Great Pyramid of Giza being built on the exact coordinates on Earth that translates to the speed of light. And these pyramids align perfectly with the Pleiades constellation, where the Anunnaki were originally from. At this point, Neil was all but completely convinced that we had been visited by aliens for thousands of years, and they had clearly shaped our existence. But he wanted to know more. He continued searching for the answers he was looking for. But it wasn't until 1976 that he would have a major breakthrough. You see, My father was a very connected person. He knew someone by the name of Stan Hall, who was a Scottish engineer. Stan had come across some information that he thought Neil would be very interested in knowing about. You see, back in 1976, several years after Neil's mission to the moon, Stan Hall had received some very reliable information about a newly discovered cave system in Ecuador called the La Cueva de los Tallos, which supposedly contained some ancient gold tablets. But this is what really got Neil's attention. Stan Hall showed him a few things they discovered, and one of them was an ancient depiction of an Anunnaki being, the same ones that Neil was studying that were found in Mesopotamia. Nearly identical depictions of the Anunnaki existed thousands of miles apart, which was more than enough proof for Neil. Neil had read about the golden tablets existing while researching the Anunnaki. The issue was, Neil just didn't know where it was. Until now. This was more than a legend. It was true. And these golden tablets weren't just any type of ancient artifacts. They were said to contain hidden knowledge about the universe, our ancient history, advanced technology, and something else. Something that had the possibility to change the world forever. Do you think you know what I'm referring to? I'll reveal it in just a minute. Both him and Neil were determined to get to the bottom of it because they desperately wanted to know the truth, so they instantly headed off. With the international fame of Neil Armstrong being leveraged to help secure the money they'd need for the expedition, and the technical savvy of Stan, they assembled a team of nearly 100 experts, archaeologists, government officials from Ecuador, engineers, guides, and were granted permission by the Ecuadorian government to proceed. So after months of planning, they finally set out to explore the cave system. Getting to the caves was no easy matter, having to traverse deadly terrain in jungles full of dangerous animals, exotic viruses, and sweltering heat. But finally, they discovered the entrance to the fabled cave system. What they discovered inside the cave was shocking. Perfectly carved cathedral-sized caverns that stretched for miles and miles. They walked for what seemed like an eternity while mapping the interior of the caves. They could not believe the extent of how many caves there were and for how far they went on. Everyone had an eerie feeling while exploring these caves, as they did not feel like they were naturally formed. Eventually, they reached a small opening in one of the caverns that opened up to a larger room. Sensing that this could potentially be where the mystical golden library existed, Neil decided to push ahead of the group, followed by Stan, and they entered the room first. Once they reached the inside of this room, their jaws about hit the ground. They had found the golden library. The myths were true. Each tablet was inscribed with strange symbols, a language that no one has ever seen before. The tablets appeared to be made out of solid gold and were quite heavy, at least 40 pounds each. There was also a mysterious golden chest in the room, and when they opened it, it was full of a strange white powder that almost shimmered in the light. While they were inspecting the room, their excitement quickly turned to disappointment when the Ecuadorian military and other government officials from the UK as well as the US showed up. They immediately took control of the situation and escorted them out of the cave, confiscated their cameras, and actually threatened them not to discuss anything they found with the media. But this time, Neil wasn't going to let the truth slip through his fingers so easily again. Neil, anticipating that they may confiscate their cameras, decided to remove the film and hide it in a secret pocket of his pants as soon as they started snapping images of the hidden room with the golden tablets, making sure to get close-up pictures of the writing on the tablets. The writing on the tablets was like no other language he has ever encountered. It appeared to be alien. Before the other members of the group were able to crawl through the small opening, Neil rushed over to the golden chest with the mysterious white powder and put some of it in an empty film canister he had. He then slipped it into his hidden pocket with the rest of the film. Neil didn't realize it at the time, but what he had just discovered was something that had the potential to change the face of humanity forever. You see, the white powder was what was made into the elixir that these ancient beings consumed, and with it, the power to amplify the mind, the spirit, the consciousness, and much more. So now that you understand how all of this happened, I need to get the truth out there about what really happened toward the end of Neil's life. Once again, Neil had hit a dead end. But deep down, he knew the truth. He knew we were not alone, and that we were being lied to. He saw it with his own eyes on the moon. And he was 100% convinced from his research and his trip to Ecuador that the Anunnaki were involved with mankind's past and the revolution. But what really bothered him was that he couldn't decipher what was said on these ancient golden tablets. He just knew that the knowledge on these tablets could change the entire world. And the strange white powder he recovered from the golden chest was still a mystery as well. Now, I know what I'm sharing with you is a lot to take in, but just stick with me for just another second, and I'm going to reveal something truly shocking to you. Because my father knew Neil fairly well, and he trusted him. He gave my father access to the images of the golden tablets they found before he passed away, as well as the canister of the white powder. And eventually, my father entrusted them to me before he passed as well. He was hoping that my father would be able to shed some light on these, and possibly help find someone to decipher them. Well, it wasn't until fairly recently that I was able to do it. With the help of artificial intelligence, I was able to decipher the tablets we had pictures of. Now, what these tablets talked about revealed the truth to some of the deepest mysteries ever faced by mankind. They talked about how they were not supposed to tinker with mankind's DNA because it was against a prime directive of something called the Galactic Federation. This was a group of different alien races that formed a peace treaty and had a set of rules that they all needed to abide by. And one of them was not to interfere with developing planets. And if this seems hard to believe, consider the fact that the former head of Israel's Defense Ministry's space program, Chaim Eshed, recently said on his deathbed that Earthlings have been in contact with extraterrestrials from a galactic federation. I don't know about you, but when someone in their 80s says that on their deathbed, to me, that holds a lot of weight. The Galactic Federation eventually persuaded the Anunnaki to return to their home planet. Once they discovered that they had been tinkering with the DNA of mankind here on Earth. The tablets also mentioned how they're not the only alien beings to visit our planet. There are thousands of other intelligent alien races in our galaxy alone. And while their presence seems to be their curiosity of us, monitoring important events, like when UFOs were sighted at previous Olympic gatherings, or during major volcanic eruptions, and even more recently during the attempted assassination of former President Trump. But the tablets also warn that certain races of aliens, specifically a reptilian-like race, are not friendly. They feed off the suffering of our people, like psychic vampires. But here's the dark truth that the government won't admit to the public. These aliens are the ones in control of our government. And not just the US government, but pretty much every superstate in the world. They've infiltrated almost every position of power, from the medical industry to the military. They are the ones preventing a full disclosure to the public. The governments at the highest level are influenced, bribed with access to advanced technology, and occasionally even threatened. They operate outside of the directives of the Galactic Federation in secrecy, silently enslaving our world. Now, as unnerving as this is, there is hope. Humanity is rising, and the tablets directly state that we have a place amongst the stars in the Galactic Federation once we reach a certain level of technological and global consciousness. And remember the white powder Neil found? The tablets that Neil photographed talked in detail about a mysterious substance called ormus, or orme for short. It stands for orbitally rearranged monoatomic elements, and the tablets specifically mention gold ormus. Ormus has long been talked about for centuries, but some attributed it to simply being a myth. The Sumerians called it the food of the gods because the Anunnaki consumed it. In ancient Egypt, it was fashioned into white cones and given to pharaohs. Sometimes it was also made into an elixir, which was even more powerful. It was said to elevate their consciousness and allow them to directly connect to the universe. But the Egyptians may not have been the only ones aware of this substance. Could this be the manna that was given to the Hebrew people as Moses led them through the desert? The same white powder that is in the Ark of the Covenant? Possibly. But what I do know is that the Anunnaki, being Enki, left this behind for us and described in great detail what it does and how to create it. The tablets described gold ormus as a process by which you transmute or change gold into a monoatomic state, and by doing so, it gives it a new set of properties. It becomes superconductive and unlocks totally new properties. Now, I know you're most likely not a chemist, and neither am I, so I'll keep things simple. Your brain and every cell in your body communicates electrochemically. When you consume gold, especially monoatomic gold, which is 10 times more conductive than regular gold, it's like upgrading the copper wiring in your house to be fiber optics, which is 1,000 times faster and able to process much more information at once. In fact, one study in Switzerland observed profound balancing of both hemispheres of the brain by consuming monoatomic gold. This led to sharper intuition, great wisdom, and psychic abilities. This is directly responsible for the Anunnaki's advanced civilization and superior intelligence. Biological regeneration of damaged DNA was also observed. This may explain why the Anunnaki lived so long, and why people mentioned in the Bible lived for hundreds of years. Consuming gold ormus has profound effects on your immune system, your vitality, mental clarity, and much more. It can help reduce feelings of stress, enhance your mood, and is also a powerful detoxifying agent. Gold nanoparticles help leach away the toxins in the air, the water, and in your food. Many people talk about the increase in their sex drive, their energy levels, and even having their aches and pains simply vanish. You see, while so-called energy drinks work by giving you a temporary sugary boost to your metabolism, followed by a crash, gold ormus works at the cellular level, enhancing the function of every single one of your cells in your body, giving long-lasting energy. What's even more incredible are the spiritual, metaphysical effects of gold ormus. Since monoatomic gold is a superconductor, it enhances the energy flow in your body, including through your chakras. It raises the vibration of your spirit by activating your pineal gland, and allows you to connect directly with the universe, making things like manifestation truly possible. It can unlock psychic abilities and enhanced intuition that has laid dormant for years by activating certain types of DNA in our bodies. Gold ormus can also cross the blood-brain barrier. It's able to activate DNA, the same alien DNA that has puzzled scientists. It was spliced into our genome by the Anunnaki. When activated by the gold ormus, is like a light switch that turns on our pineal gland. And it's no secret that the Anunnaki consumed ormus on a daily basis, as did Egyptian pharaohs, and now we finally understand why. The real question about this mythical substance was how to create it, but the method was clearly laid out in the tablets. You start off with the raw material, the 24-karat gold mineral salt. You then grow crystals out of it following an exact procedure outlined in the tablets. And the real key is during this process, is to expose the crystals to a specific frequency mentioned in the tablets, 432 hertz. It turns out this is a harmonic of the natural vibration of the earth, known as the Schumann resonance. And then after drying them, you can convert the crystals to pure, monoatomic, white powdered gold ormus. The true purpose of recording this process on the tablets came as a shock to all of us. Enki wanted humanity to be a part of the Galactic Federation and have a place amongst the stars. That's how much he believed in us, to be free from the off-world controllers feeding on our misery, our destruction, our sorrow. If enough people consume gold ormus, it can raise our collective consciousness, which is what it will take for us to be recognized and for formal contact to be made. This is our only chance to escape the matrix of control and ascend into our rightful place in the stars. Our planet would finally be able to live in harmony, free from war, starvation, poverty, and we're so close to getting there. I promised my father before he passed away that I would do everything I could to get this message out to the world, even if it meant risking my life. That's why I decided to partner up with a FDA-registered lab to create real 24K gold ormus as outlined in the golden tablets left behind by Enki. I decided to call it Enki Elixir, named after the Anunnaki being who went out of his way to protect us from his cruel brother. This is real gold ormus, not the fake stuff you see being peddled by shady companies who simply try to sell seawater and claim it's ormus. And I can guarantee you that no one uses the same method to create the gold ormus like we do, because they don't have the process that was specifically laid out in the golden tablets. But I had an idea to make it even better than described in the tablets. I decided to add Elixir root, which has been used for centuries by Eastern European countries. It's a powerful adaptogen, which means that it helps the body resist physical, environmental, and emotional stressors. And in another recent study from 2024, they found that it also helps reduce fatigue and memory loss. Next, we added the extract of lady's mantle herb. This powerful herb is rich in antioxidants, which can help strengthen your immune system. It's also a powerful anti-inflammatory, combined with another unique property that helps aid with digestion. Then, we added the extract of licorice root, where the medicinal use of this plant dates back to ancient Egypt. Reserved primarily for pharaohs, this plant contains antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and antimicrobial properties. And lastly, we added peppermint oil, which was used in ancient India, Greece, and Rome for its natural pain-relieving properties. Peppermint oil is also said to be able to help dispel negative vibrations and energetic patterns that surround an individual. Enki Elixir is like nothing else on earth, quite literally. After creating the first batch, according to the golden tablets, I decided to test it out, and the results were nothing short of jaw-dropping. After a few days of taking 1 dropper full per day, I noticed the pain in my joints virtually disappear. I played sports for years and thought that this would be something I would be forced to live with for the rest of my life. But thankfully, it's no longer a worry. I felt completely energized as well. The best way I can describe it would be for me to tell you to try to imagine you were a kid again on Christmas morning. I literally fly out of bed, fully energized and awake for the entire day. No more midday grogginess, no more struggling to remember certain details. Despite having all of this energy, I felt calm and at ease, like I was in control, without being burdened by my normal day-to-day worries. I also started to have realizations about people I knew, about myself, and many things in general that were entirely spot on. I felt a greater sense of intuition about people. I could sense their intentions, and I almost felt like dormant psychic abilities were beginning to open up to me. But you see, that was just the start. After a week or so of using Enki Elixir, that's when the real changes started, because that's when I believe my chakra system and third eye really began to open up. I began to feel like I was connected to my higher self and would instantly have answers to questions I had that would simply just come to me. I felt like I could ask the universe for anything and it would grant me what I wanted. In fact, it did. After a tree fell on the roof of my home, causing $6,000 in damage and my insurance telling me they weren't going to cover it, I decided to ask the universe for help. I visualized receiving the $6,000, and the more I focused, the more it became clear in my mind, until I truly believed that it would happen. This has never happened to me before in my life. 2 days later, while cleaning out my basement, I found a picture frame of my father. I accidentally dropped it, causing it to break open, and when I did, I noticed several $100 bills falling out of it. My father never really trusted the banks and would hide money around the house. Needless to say, There was exactly $6,000 in there. I stood there shocked. I couldn't believe what happened. But at the same time, I simply knew it was going to happen. All the other times in my life that I tried meditation, affirmations, practicing stuff like The Secret, that was all just a diversion from the truth of what it really takes to connect to the universe and to receive its blessings. Some call this manifestation, but I know that this is what propelled the Anunnaki to become such an advanced civilization, capable of doing almost anything. These are just some of the things I noticed when using Enki Elixir. I also started to experience weight loss, which was most likely due to my metabolism being enhanced by the monoatomic gold. This is Enki's gift to humanity, and it's an act of God that I'm able to share it with you today. And it's my mission to share it with as many people as I can for as long as I can, because it's what Neil and my father would have wanted. Enki Elixir is simple to take and tastes great. Just take 1 dropper full of Enki Elixir once per day, and you're all set. I like to take mine in the morning because of the rush of energy I get that lasts the entire day. It's made right here in the USA in an FDA-registered facility with the purest ingredients available. The crystals are grown from gold minerals and carefully crafted into the ormus before being mixed into the elixir with the other ingredients. There is absolutely nothing like this anywhere else. You won't find this in stores or anywhere else except for right here on this page. Real gold ormus has been used by the Anunnaki, the Sumerians, and ancient Egyptian pharaohs to attain enlightenment and higher states of consciousness and to receive blessings, wealth, health, love, and more. With the price of gold as high as it is, thousands of dollars per ounce, it's a miracle we were able to get the cost down as low as we did. Your very own Enki Elixir, the same stuff the Anunnaki taught us how to make, can be rush delivered directly to you at the price you see below. If you go with 3 or more bottles, shipping is 100% free, plus you'll also receive a deep discount. And to make sure you have nothing to worry about, we're to throw in a free 365-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. If you change your mind for any reason, you have up to 1 full year from the time of purchase to get a complete refund on any of the unused ormus. That's how confident I am that Enki Elixir will change your life. But that's not all. We've also created a fully illustrated 40-page guide called the Chakra Bible, which covers everything you need to know about your different chakra energy points and how to clear any blockages any of the points may have. This is incredibly valuable information to have, as it works directly with Enki Elixir, so you'll have an in-depth understanding of what's going on with your chakras and how to focus your energy on manifesting what you desire after reading this detailed guide. Valued at $69, but it's yours absolutely free when you order today. And we'll also throw in a custom illustrated guide called Alkaline Harmony, a 43-page recipe guide that teaches you recipes designed to help detoxify and supercharge your third eye activation. By aligning what you eat with your higher purpose, you can fuel your journey to a healthier, more awakened you. This will also help enhance the effects of Enki Elixir and is highly recommended. A $49 value, yours 100% free. And if you have the means, I highly recommend getting 6 bottles of Enki Elixir. Not only will you be getting the best price, free shipping, and over $100 in free bonuses, but you'll also be securing your access to this special gold ormus not found anywhere else. This is the real stuff, made exactly as described on the golden tablets. And let me be very clear. There are some very powerful people, groups, and even governments who are not happy that I'm offering this to the public. And I don't know how much longer this website will be up. I am risking my own safety in order to bring this to you. So it's incredibly important to grab as much of this as you can while you still can. And I can promise you, once you feel the effects of the monoatomic gold energizing your body, your mind, and your spirit, you will never want to be without Enki Elixir again in your life. Just click the Add to Cart button below and we'll process your order immediately and discreetly, even if it's 3 a.m., no matter where you are in the world. You're fully protected by the 365-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. It's time we take our rightful place in the Galactic Federation. It's time we evolve to the next level and see what our future could truly be like without war, suffering, poverty, without wanting, without sadness. A life full of wonder, full of hope. And it's time I come out of the shadows and into the light. It's time we all come out of the deception that's been fed to us and demand the truth and take our rightful place in the universe and experience our full potential. Take action now. Click the Add to Cart button below and let's do this together.
There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers. Truth's protective layers.